The morning sun beat down on Fort Bragg, North Carolina, turning the armory into an oven. Sergeant Maya Torres stood alone in the weapons maintenance room, surrounded by rows of rifles that needed attention. Her hands moved with quiet precision, one scope, then another, then another. She didn't look up when the door swung open. Well, 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 came a voice dripping with mockery. Look who got stuck with grunt work. Maya kept her eyes on the rifle in her hands. She knew that voice. Corporal Jake Hendricks. He'd been making her life difficult since the day she transferred to this unit 6 months ago. Just doing my job. Corporal, she said evenly. Jake strutted closer, flanked by 2 other soldiers who snickered behind him. Your job? Torres, you've been in here every single day for 2 weeks. While the rest of us are running drills and doing real soldier work, you're playing janitor with the hardware. Maya's jaw tightened, but she didn't respond. She carefully set down the scope she'd been inspecting and reached for another. I'm talking to you, Jake pressed. His voice turned cruel. Oh, I get it. They finally figured out you can't hack it in the field, so they stuck you where you belong. Cleaning, woman's work, right? One of the soldiers behind him laughed nervously. The other one stayed quiet, looking uncomfortable. Maya turned slowly. Her dark eyes met Jake's with a calm that unsettled him. Is there something you need, Corporal? Or are you just here to run your mouth? Jake's face reddened. Watch your tone, Torres. You might have been some hotshot at your last posting, but here, you're nothing. You're the girl who couldn't cut it. Everyone knows it. He leaned against the weapons rack, arms crossed, enjoying himself. What I can't figure out is why the captain keeps assigning you to weapons detail. It's like they're trying to hide you away. Keep you out of sight so you don't embarrass the unit. Maya picked up another rifle. Her hands trembled slightly, but not from fear. From restraint. From holding back words that would only make things worse. Nothing to say? Jake taunted. That's what I thought. He turned to leave, then paused at the door. Do us all a favor, Torres. Put in for a transfer. Go back to wherever you came from. We don't need passengers in this unit. The door slammed shut behind them. Maya stood alone again, silent, still. Then she exhaled slowly and returned to her work. But if anyone had been watching closely, they would have seen something strange. Maya wasn't just cleaning these weapons. She was examining them, studying them. Her fingers traced specific parts of each scope with the familiarity of someone who knew every curve, every scratch, every detail, because she did. 2 hours later, Captain Peterson appeared in the doorway. Unlike Jake, he knocked softly before entering. Sergeant Torres. Maya stood at attention. Sir. Peterson was a good man, fair and respected. But even in his eyes, Maya sometimes saw the question, why are you really here? At ease, he said. How's the inventory coming? Almost complete, sir. 47 rifles processed. 13 remaining. Peterson nodded, glancing at the neat rows of weapons she'd already inspected. You've been very thorough. The brass appreciates it. There it was again, that careful tone. The words that sounded like praise but felt like dismissal. Permission to speak freely, sir. Peterson hesitated. Granted. How long am I going to be on maintenance detail? The captain sighed and rubbed the back of his neck. Torres, you know this isn't my call. The orders came from above. Colonel Hastings specifically requested you for this assignment. Requested me to clean weapons. Maya couldn't keep the frustration from her voice. Sir, I didn't transfer here to be a glorified armorer. I'm a combat-qualified sniper. I have more confirmed missions than half the shooters in this unit combined. I know your record, Peterson said quietly, but I don't question the colonel's orders. Neither should you. He softened slightly. Look, I don't know what this is about, but Hastings isn't the kind of officer who wastes talent. If he wants you on this detail, there's a reason. Trust the process. Trust the process. Maya had heard that before. Trust the process when they questioned whether a woman belonged in sniper school. Trust the process when they made her prove herself twice as hard as any man. Trust the process when they assigned her to units that didn't want her. She'd trusted the process her entire career, and she was tired. Yes, sir, she said. Peterson left, and Maya returned to the scopes. She picked up the next one and turned it slowly in her hands. The weight was familiar. The balance was perfect, and there, etched in letters so small you'd miss them if you weren't looking, were 3 initials on the base of the mounting rail. M.E. to Maya Elena Torres. Her work, her precision, her craftsmanship, she'd made this scope. And the one before it, and the one before that. She'd made 47 of the 60 scopes in this armory, each one custom-built, each one calibrated to perfection, each one marked with her initials in a place where only someone who truly understood the weapon would think to look, but nobody here knew that. They saw a female sergeant cleaning rifles, doing grunt work, wasting time on maintenance while the real soldiers trained. They had no idea who she really was. They had no idea what she'd done, and they had no idea that tomorrow, Colonel William Hastings would walk into this armory, pick up one of these rifles, and finally see what had been right in front of them all along. Maya set down the scope and reached for the next one. Outside, the sun climbed higher. The base hummed with activity. Soldiers trained. Officers barked orders. The machine of military life ground forward. And in the quiet armory, a woman they'd all dismissed continued her work. Patient. Precise. Waiting. That evening, Maya sat alone in the mess hall. She'd learned to time her meals carefully. Come early or come late, but never during the rush when she'd have to endure the stares, the whispers, the empty seats around her. Tonight she'd come late. She ate mechanically, her mind elsewhere. On scopes, on missions, on a life that felt very far away from this place. Mind if I sit? Maya looked up. Lieutenant Sarah Chen stood with a tray, offering a cautious smile. She was one of the few officers who'd shown Maya any kindness since her arrival. Free country, Maya said. Sarah sat down, and for a few moments they ate in comfortable silence. Then Sarah spoke quietly. I heard what Hendricks said to you today. Maya's fork paused halfway to her mouth. Word travels fast. It always does. Sarah leaned forward. For what it's worth, he's an idiot. Everyone knows he washed out of Ranger selection twice. He takes it out on anyone he thinks he can push around. I can handle Hendricks. I know you can, but you shouldn't have to. Sarah hesitated. Maya, people are talking. They're wondering why you're stuck in the armory. Why someone with your record is doing maintenance work. And some of them, they're drawing the wrong conclusions. Let me guess, Maya said bitterly. They think I'm being punished, or that I lied about my credentials, or that I couldn't handle the pressure and they're hiding me away. Sarah's silence was answer enough. Maya pushed her tray away. It doesn't matter what they think, doesn't it? Sarah's voice was gentle but firm. You're letting them define you. The Maya Torres I've read about wouldn't do that. The woman who made 6 confirmed eliminations in Kandahar wouldn't sit quietly while people like Hendricks drag her name through the mud. Maya's eyes flashed. You don't know what you're talking about. Then tell me. Help me understand. Sarah's voice dropped even lower. Why are you really here, Maya? What's this assignment really about? For a moment, Maya almost told her. Almost explained everything. But orders were orders, and some secrets weren't hers to share. I can't, she said finally. Sarah studied her for a long moment, then nodded. Okay, but whatever this is, whatever you're doing, I hope it's worth it. She stood to leave, then paused. The colonel arrives tomorrow. Full inspection. He's reviewing all equipment and personnel. Maya's heart skipped a beat, but she kept her face neutral. Good to know. After Sarah left, Maya sat alone in the empty mess hall. Tomorrow. It would all come together tomorrow. She just had to make it through one more night. But the night had other plans. At 2200 hours, alarms screamed across the base. Maya bolted from her bunk as emergency lights flooded the barracks. Soldiers scrambled in controlled chaos. What's happening? Someone shouted. Security breach. This is not a drill. Maya's training kicked in instantly. She was dressed and moving before most others had processed what was happening. Outside, the base had transformed into a hive of activity. Vehicles raced toward the perimeter. Soldiers took defensive positions. Captain Peterson appeared, shouting orders. Listen up. We have a reported intrusion on the eastern fence line. All personnel to stations. Combat ready, but hold fire unless authorized. Maya moved to grab her assigned weapon from the armory, but Peterson caught her arm. Not you, Torres. Lockdown protocol. Secure the weapons room. No one goes in or out until all clear is given. Sir, I can... That's an order, Sergeant. Maya watched the other soldiers deploy. Watched them rush toward potential danger while she was relegated to guard duty. Safe. Protected. Kept away from the action. Just like they'd kept her away from everything else. She headed to the armory. Her jaw clenched so tight it ached. The weapons room was dark when she entered. She flipped on the emergency lights and did a quick visual inventory. Everything was in place. 60 rifles all accounted for. 47 with her scopes, 13 standard issue. She locked the door from inside and settled in to wait. Minutes crawled by. The base-wide comm system crackled with updates. False alarm. Deer on the fence line. Someone's overactive imagination turning shadows into threats. Stand down. Return to normal status. Maya sat among the rifles she'd spent 2 weeks examining, and something inside her cracked. 12 years. 12 years she'd served. 12 years of proving herself. Of being twice as good to be considered half as competent. Of watching lesser soldiers get opportunities she had to fight for. She'd made these scopes with her own hands. Each one a masterpiece of engineering and precision. Each one had saved lives downrange. Each one bore her mark, but no one here knew. No one here cared. To them, she was just the woman who couldn't hack it. The diversity hire. The soldier tucked away in the armory where she couldn't embarrass anyone. She picked up one of the rifles. The weight settled into her shoulder like coming home. She looked through the scope. Her scope, and the world sharpened into crystal clarity. Through the armory window, she could see soldiers returning from the false alarm, laughing, joking about the excitement, living the life she'd been excluded from. And there was Hendricks strutting like a rooster, probably already turning the story into something he'd embellish at the bar later. Maya lowered the rifle and set it carefully back in place. Tomorrow, she reminded herself. Tomorrow changes everything. She spent the night in her bunk staring at the ceiling. Sleep wouldn't come. Around her, other soldiers snored and shifted. They slept easy, untroubled. Maya's mind raced through possibilities. What if the colonel didn't look closely enough? What if he didn't see the markings? What if Peterson or someone else interfered? What if she'd endured 2 weeks of humiliation for nothing? At 05:30, she gave up on sleep. She dressed in her cleanest uniform, made sure every detail was perfect. If this was the day everything changed, she'd meet it looking like the soldier she was. The base stirred to life around her. Morning PT, breakfast, the usual routines. But today felt different. Electric. At 0800, 3 black SUVs rolled through the main gate. Colonel William Hastings had arrived. Maya watched from a distance as he emerged from the lead vehicle. He was in his late 50s, silver-haired, with the bearing of a man who'd seen real combat and earned every ribbon on his chest. He moved with purpose, accompanied by 2 aides and Captain Peterson. They were heading for the command building. First, meetings, briefings, the usual inspection protocol. The armory would come later. Maya forced herself to go through the motions of her day. She returned to the weapons room, ostensibly to finish the final 13 rifles. But her hands shook slightly as she worked. Her breath came shallow. This was it. The moment that would justify everything. The moment that would prove she wasn't crazy for enduring the whispers and the mockery and the isolation. At 1100 hours, footsteps approached the armory. Multiple sets. Official and purposeful. Maya stood, smoothed her uniform, and waited. The door opened. Colonel Hastings stepped inside, followed by Captain Peterson and a master sergeant Maya didn't recognize. The colonel's eyes swept the room with the practiced efficiency of someone who could spot a single detail out of place in a warehouse full of equipment. Then his eyes landed on Maya. "Sergeant Torres," he said. His voice was deep, measured, carrying weight. "Sir?" She stood at perfect attention. "I understand you've been conducting inventory on our precision rifle systems." "Yes, sir. The work is nearly complete." Hastings moved closer, his gaze intense. "Show me." This was the moment. Everything she'd worked for. Everything she'd endured. Maya picked up the nearest rifle and handed it to the colonel. "Sir, if you examine the scope mounting system, you'll find—" "I know what I'll find." "Sergeant," Hastings interrupted. He turned the scope slowly in his hands. His thumb found the exact spot where the initials were etched. He didn't need to search. He knew exactly where to look. "MET," he read aloud. Then he looked at Maya with an expression she couldn't quite read, and said the words that would change everything. "Maya Elena Torres," Colonel Hastings said, still holding the scope. "Master Sergeant, retired, formerly of the Marine Corps Scout Sniper Program, 3 tours in Afghanistan, 2 in Iraq, 6 confirmed eliminations as a sniper. But that's not why you're famous, is it?" Maya stood frozen. Captain Peterson's face showed complete confusion. Hastings continued, his voice filling the armory. After your combat service, you were recruited to the Precision Weapons Development Unit at Quantico. You spent 5 years there, not shooting, building, engineering, designing the next generation of rifle optic systems. He held up the scope so the light caught the etched initials. You personally designed and manufactured the M47 Advanced Combat Scope, the most requested piece of equipment in the Special Operations community. 47 confirmed units in circulation, each one hand-built and calibrated by you, each one marked with your initials in a place where only a true professional would think to look. Peterson's mouth fell open. Sir, I had no idea. Of course you didn't, Captain. That was intentional. Hastings set the rifle down carefully and faced Maya directly. Sergeant Torres, tell the captain why you're really here. Maya's voice was steady despite the thundering of her heart. 3 months ago, a Marine sniper team in Syria missed a critical shot. The optic failed at the moment of trigger pull. The target escaped. 2 weeks later, a SEAL team reported similar failures. Then an Army Ranger unit, all M47 scopes, all catastrophic failures at critical moments. Hastings picked up another rifle, examining its scope. Someone has been manufacturing counterfeit versions of Sergeant Torres's scopes. Perfect copies on the outside, inferior components on the inside. They've been infiltrating the supply chain, replacing genuine articles with fakes. Men and women in the field are dying because they're using equipment they think they can trust. My God, Peterson breathed. It gets worse, Maya said, her voice harder now. The counterfeits are so good that standard inspection can't tell the difference. Same weight, same dimensions, same external markings, but the internal calibration is off by fractions of a degree, not enough to notice in training. Enough to miss by 6 inches at 800 yards in combat. Hastings walked slowly along the rack of rifles. Sergeant Torres was brought out of retirement and temporarily reinstated to personally examine every M47 scope in the Eastern Theater, to identify which ones are genuine and which are fakes. She's been doing this at 15 different bases over the past 4 months. Fort Bragg is number 12. Maya watched Peterson's face as understanding dawned. The maintenance detail. It was cover. We couldn't announce what we were doing, Hastings explained. If word got out that we were investigating counterfeit scopes, whoever is manufacturing them would disappear. We'd never find the source. So Sergeant Torres had to work quietly, thoroughly, while everyone assumed she was just cleaning weapons. The colonel's voice turned to steel. What we didn't account for was how this base would treat her. How certain soldiers would mock her, demean her, question her capabilities while she was literally saving their lives. Peterson looked like he wanted to disappear into the floor. Sir, if I had known, you weren't supposed to know, Captain. But you were supposed to maintain discipline. You were supposed to ensure that every soldier under your command was treated with respect. Hastings' gaze could have cut glass. Sergeant Torres reported that she faced harassment from members of this unit, that she was subjected to verbal abuse and professional isolation, that soldiers under your command created a hostile environment. Sir, I'll find out who. I already know who, Maya said quietly. Corporal Hendricks has been the primary source, but he's not the only one. And the problem isn't just individual soldiers. It's a culture that allowed it to happen. Hastings nodded grimly. Captain Peterson, assemble your unit in the briefing room. Full attendance, 1 hour. Sergeant Torres will present her findings, and I will personally address the conduct issues that have occurred under your watch. Yes, sir. Peterson saluted and hurried out, looking shaken to his core. When he was gone, Hastings turned back to Maya. His expression softened slightly. How many did you find? Maya took a deep breath. Out of 60 scopes on this base, 47 are genuine. Mine. 13 are counterfeits. 13. Hastings's jaw tightened. That's the highest percentage we've found yet. Someone targeted this base specifically. Yes, sir, and I think I know why. Maya walked to a separate table where she'd set aside the 13 counterfeit scopes. These aren't just random replacements. Look at which rifles they were mounted on. Hastings examined the weapons. His eyes widened. These are all designated marksman rifles, assigned to 2nd Platoon, Bravo Company, the unit scheduled to deploy to East Africa next month. Maya's voice was grim. Every single long-range rifle in that platoon has a counterfeit scope. If they deployed with this equipment, they'd have been combat ineffective. Sitting ducks. The implications hung in the air like smoke. This wasn't random. This was targeted. Someone had deliberately sabotaged an entire platoon's weapons. "Do you have any idea who's behind this?" Hastings asked. "I have suspicions, sir, but I need more evidence." Maya picked up one of the counterfeit scopes. "These are good, too good. Whoever made these has access to my original designs. They understand precision optics. And they have the resources to manufacture them at scale." "Someone on the inside." "Yes, sir." Hastings was quiet for a moment, thinking. "The briefing in 1 hour. We'll reveal what you've found. We'll identify which weapons are compromised, and we'll see who reacts," Maya nodded. "It's risky. If the person responsible is in that room, they'll know we're onto them." "Good, let them know. Let them sweat." The colonel's eyes were cold. "And let them try to run. Because when they do, we'll be waiting." 53 minutes later, Maya stood outside the briefing room. Through the door, she could hear the murmur of assembled soldiers. The entire company, crammed into a space meant for half that number. Word had spread that something big was happening. Captain Peterson emerged, looking nervous. "They're ready, Sergeant. But I should warn you. Hendricks is in there. And he's already running his mouth about how this is probably some diversity seminar or waste of time." Maya allowed herself a cold smile. Let him talk. He won't be talking much longer. She entered the room and silence fell like a hammer. Dozens of eyes tracked her movement to the front. She could feel their confusion, their curiosity, their judgment. There was Hendricks sitting in the back row with his arms crossed, wearing an expression of amused contempt. Next to him sat the soldiers who'd backed him up, who'd laughed at his jokes, who'd made Maya's life hell for 2 weeks. They all looked so sure of themselves. So certain that they knew who she was. What she was worth, they had no idea. Colonel Hastings stepped to the podium. The room snapped to attention. "Seats," Hastings commanded. "What I'm about to tell you is classified. Nothing discussed in this room leaves this room. Is that understood?" A chorus of "Yes, sir" echoed back. 2 weeks ago, Sergeant Maya Torres was assigned to this base on a special operations tasking. Her mission was to conduct a covert investigation into equipment irregularities affecting deployed units across multiple theaters of operation. The room stirred. Confused glances were exchanged. Hastings continued, his voice building in intensity. "During that time, while performing duties critical to the safety of American soldiers in combat zones, Sergeant Torres was subjected to harassment, mockery, and professional disrespect by members of this command." Now the mood shifted. Soldiers sat up straighter. Some looked uncomfortable. Hendricks's smirk began to fade. "What many of you don't know, what you couldn't have known, is that Sergeant Torres is the foremost expert on precision rifle optics in the United States military. She is the designer and manufacturer of the M47 Advanced Combat Scope. Every special operations unit in this military requests her equipment specifically because it is the best, because it saves lives, because she is the best at what she does." Hendricks's face had gone pale. "While you assumed she was cleaning weapons, she was actually identifying counterfeit equipment that could have gotten American soldiers killed. While you mocked her for doing grunt work, she was literally performing a mission that no one else in this military is qualified to perform." Hastings paused, letting that sink in. The silence was absolute, and what she discovered should terrify every single one of you. He nodded to Maya. This was her moment. She stepped forward, and when she spoke, her voice carried the weight of every insult she'd endured, every doubt she'd swallowed, every moment she'd held her tongue. 13 rifles on this base have been compromised with counterfeit optics," she began. "All 13 belong to 2nd Platoon Bravo Company. The unit deploying next month." She locked eyes with Hendricks. "And every single one of those rifles was signed out for maintenance 3 months ago by the same person." She held up a maintenance log, letting the room see it. Corporal Jake Hendricks. The room exploded. Soldiers shot to their feet. Voices erupted in shock and anger. All eyes turned to Hendricks, who sat frozen in his seat, his face cycling through shock, fear, and then something worse. Rage. "That's a lie," he shouted, standing. "This is garbage. I signed out those rifles for routine maintenance." "Standard procedure." "Sit down, Corporal," Colonel Hastings ordered, his voice cutting through the chaos. "No, I'm not going to sit here while she frames me." Hendricks pointed at Maya, his hand shaking. "This is exactly what I said. She couldn't hack it in the field, so now she's making up stories trying to take down real soldiers to make herself look good." 2 military police officers appeared at the doors. They'd been waiting. Hastings's voice dropped to a deadly calm. "Corporal Hendricks, you have the right to remain silent. I suggest you exercise it." But Hendricks was beyond reason now. "You're all buying this? You're going to believe her over me. I've been in this unit for 4 years. She's been here 2 weeks. And we're supposed to believe she's some kind of secret weapons expert." Maya remained perfectly still, watching him unravel. Waiting. "Sergeant Torres," Hastings said. "Please continue your briefing." Maya picked up a remote and activated the screen behind her. Maintenance logs appeared, highlighted in yellow. 3 months ago, Corporal Hendricks signed out 13 rifles for what he listed as routine scope maintenance. He returned them 48 hours later with all scopes reinstalled. According to his report, he performed the work himself in Building 7, the auxiliary maintenance facility. She clicked to the next slide. Security footage appeared. This is Building 7 on the date in question. As you can see, Corporal Hendricks enters at 1400 hours carrying a large equipment case. He exits at 14:15. 15 minutes. Not enough time to perform maintenance on 13 scopes. Another click. This is the parking lot behind Building 7. At 14:17, a civilian vehicle arrives. The driver meets Corporal Hendricks. They exchange cases. The civilian leaves. Hendricks returns to Building 7 at 14:30 and remains for 20 minutes before returning the rifles to the armory. The room was dead silent now. Every eye was on the screen. The civilian vehicle was registered to a company called Precision Dynamics International, a defense contractor that was denied a military optics contract 2 years ago. Maya's voice hardened. The same contract that was awarded to the program I worked for at Quantico. The same program that produces the M47 scopes. She advanced to the next slide. Financial records. Over the past 6 months, Corporal Hendricks received 4 payments totaling $68,000 from shell companies linked to Precision Dynamics. He was being paid to swap genuine scopes with counterfeits. He was being paid to sabotage American military equipment. That's not... I never... Hendricks stammered, but the words died in his throat. Colonel Hastings stood. "Corporal Jake Hendricks, you are hereby placed under arrest for sabotage, accepting bribes, and conspiracy to endanger U.S. military personnel. MPs, take him into custody." The military police moved forward. Hendricks backed away, his bravado completely shattered. Wait. You don't understand. They told me the scopes were just as good. They said they were the same quality, just cheaper. I thought I was just helping cut costs. I didn't know they were defective." "But you knew you were being paid to make an unauthorized swap," Maya said quietly. "You knew you were lying on official reports. You knew you were hiding what you were doing." Hendricks looked at her with something like desperation. "I needed the money. My wife's medical bills. We were drowning. They offered me a way out. I thought it was just about contracts and politics. I didn't think anyone would actually get hurt." "You didn't think," Hastings said coldly. "That's the problem. You didn't think about the soldiers who would deploy with faulty equipment. You didn't think about the lives that could be lost. You only thought about yourself." The MPs took Hendricks by the arms. He didn't resist. As they led him past Maya, he stopped. "For what it's worth," he said, his voice broken, "I'm sorry. You were right about me. I'm not a real soldier. Never was." Maya looked at him without anger, without triumph. Just sadness. A real soldier protects the people next to him. Even when it's hard. Even when it costs something. You forgot that? They took him away. The room remained silent for a long moment after the doors closed. Then Hastings addressed the assembled soldiers. "Let me be absolutely clear. Sergeant Torres's investigation has prevented a catastrophic failure. If 2nd Platoon had deployed with those counterfeit scopes, soldiers would have died. Missions would have failed. Because of her work, her expertise, and her dedication, that didn't happen." He paused, looking around the room. "And while she was saving your lives, some of you made hers miserable. Some of you judged her, mocked her, decided she wasn't good enough without knowing a damn thing about who she was or what she'd done." Captain Peterson stood at attention. His face flushed with shame. "This is a lesson for every person in this room," Hastings continued. "Respect is not given based on assumptions. It's earned through action, and it's owed to every soldier who wears this uniform, regardless of gender, regardless of assignment, regardless of whether you understand their mission." He turned to Maya. "Sergeant Torres, on behalf of the United States Army, and the Special Operations community thank you for your service. Your work has saved American lives across multiple theaters. Your expertise is unmatched, and your professionalism in the face of undeserved hostility is commendable. Maya saluted. Just doing my job, sir. You did a hell of a lot more than that. Hastings returned the salute. Dismissed. The soldiers filed out quietly, many of them stealing glances at Maya with new eyes. She could see the shame on some faces, the respect on others, the dawning understanding that they'd been completely wrong. Lieutenant Sarah Chen approached, her expression full of admiration. I knew there was more to your story. I just wish I'd done more to support you. You did what you could, Maya said. That meant something. As the room emptied, Captain Peterson remained. He stood before Maya, struggling with words. Sergeant Torres, there's no excuse. I should have maintained better discipline. I should have shut down the harassment the first time I heard about it. I failed you. I failed my command, Maya considered him. You did fail, Captain, but you can do better. Make sure the next soldier who comes through here, the next woman who doesn't fit their expectations, doesn't have to go through what I did. You have my word. Peterson's voice was firm. It won't happen again. Not in my unit. He left and Maya was alone with Colonel Hastings. How are you holding up? The colonel asked, his formal demeanor softening. I'm good, sir. Better now than I've been in weeks. You know this isn't over. Precision Dynamics International is a major defense contractor. Hendricks was just their man on the ground. We need to go after the executives who orchestrated this. I know, sir, and I'm ready to testify. Ready to help however I can. Hastings smiled, a rare expression. Actually, I have a different assignment for you. The Army is creating a new unit. Equipment Integrity and Verification. They need someone to run it. Someone with expertise, investigative skills, and the spine to stand up to harassment and pressure. Maya's eyes widened. Sir, are you offering me a command position? I'm offering you the chance to do what you do best. Build something. Protect soldiers. Make a difference. He extended his hand. What do you say, Master Sergeant Torres? She shook his hand firmly. When do I start? 3 months later, Maya stood in a conference room at the Pentagon. On the screen behind her were photographs. Precision Dynamics executives in handcuffs. Evidence charts. Recovered counterfeit equipment from 17 different military bases. The investigation she'd started in that armory at Fort Bragg had grown into the largest military contractor fraud case in a decade. 47 people had been arrested. Hundreds of counterfeit scopes had been recovered and destroyed. Congressional hearings were scheduled, but more than that, protocols had changed. Her new unit was establishing verification procedures for all precision equipment across the military. No more would soldiers deploy with gear that couldn't be trusted. She was making a difference. Real, lasting change. After the briefing, she walked through the Pentagon corridors, past walls lined with portraits of generals and heroes. People nodded to her with respect now. They knew her name, knew her work. Her phone buzzed. A text from Lieutenant Chen, now Captain Chen after her own promotion. Saw your interview on the news. You're famous. More importantly, you're right. Keep fighting the good fight. Maya smiled and pocketed her phone. She thought about that morning in the armory. About the mockery and the isolation. About Jake Hendricks and his assumptions. About all the people who'd looked at her and seen nothing but a woman who didn't belong. They'd thought she was just cleaning weapons. They'd been so busy looking down on her that they never looked closely enough to see the truth. That every scope bore her mark. That every precision instrument in their hands had been touched by her expertise. That their lives depended on work she had done with her own hands. They'd learned better.